overview of global cashew kernel markets in 2026. Please put your hands up for Mr. Gaurav Patil as he takes up the podium to give us this world view of the kernels.
Let me start my presentation with first of all, thanking the organizers here, and especially thanks to Mr. Rahul and Srivastava ji, and also a special thanks to Mr. Prakash Kalbavi, because I had good interactions with them, and definitely it keeps me motivated to keep coming to India and discuss on our kernel markets. So let me start on the trends and opportunities for the global kernel consumption. Here we are going to discuss about India also, but the main start would be how globally the entire consumption is happening, and the biggest market for cashew, which is India, what trends are driving the consumption here and making it as a biggest market globally. So these are a few key points we are going to cover today, and I will go through some of them a bit quickly because that's mainly data. And related to that, if we have any questions, we will see in the summary and conclusion or in Q&A. So this is the data for the global kernel consumption. If we see from 2015 onwards to 2026, which is the projected data for this year, we have seen the total global cashew kernel consumption has nearly doubled. And if you're doubling in a period of 10 years, that's an average CAGR growth of close to 7%. And this growth is being driven largely by, if you can see, by India. It is also by China, a growth in Middle East and European markets. So if we see the delta change, which has come dramatically post-COVID, which is 2020 onwards, that has been into countries which were not consuming cashews as a regular snacking nut, which was in Middle East and also in China. So when we focus on this, let's speak about US, China and Europe, and then we will go on the trends for India and the consumer pattern which is driving this growth in India. So first of all, the new kid on the block for cashew consumption, which is China, it was close to 3,000 containers or 4,000 containers, let's say in 2018 or 19 period. So all of these numbers are in container basis. One container is 15 tons. I don't normally do in metric tons basis discussion, so please bear with me. China consumption was close to 3,000 containers a year by 2018-19. Today, which is last year, 2025, it is close to 10,000 containers a year, which is tremendous growth. It is around 300% growth in last 8 years. And this is mainly driven because of two reasons. One is awareness on health, awareness of eating nuts as a healthy option. Second part is related to the price. So China is a large consumer of nuts for pistachios and almonds, but cashew being a product which comes at a reasonable price, gives a good taste and flavor, and also can be used in snacking and gives that protein content, it has really picked up in the last 3 to 4 years. And this also has been because of the premiumization of the nuts which were given to China, and that came from Cambodia. Cambodia is a 1 million ton RCN crop, and that crop which is processed, it comes to Vietnam. We do not process that crop fully into fully graded white kernel, but it goes into skin covered testa kernels. So basically what you call in India as the Burma kernel, those Burma kernels are going to China. They are getting roasted, salted and sold to the supermarket. All of this sales is taken as a snacking sales, and it is growing at a CAGR rate of 20%, 25% in last 3 years. This year, we believe 11,000 containers will be imported in China, and still we believe there is a big headspace to grow from here for China also. So if we see a global cashew crop, which is RCN last session we have discussed, it was, let's say 4.5 million tons globally, which is now 6 million tons, close to 1.5 million tons, which has grown in last 2 years. There is a country which is consuming the entire crop. Logically, when the crop moves up, prices go down. When almond crop moved up significantly, prices of almond fell down from $4 a pound to $270 to $80 a pound. Cashews, it didn't happen. Cashews in 2018 was the only year when we had a $5 per pound cashews. After that, it was always $360, $380, $390. And with such a crop increasing, it should have gone to $2. It is not going. And all of this support is coming first from China, and second is coming from Middle East. And if China continues to buy this way, I think the prices are going to be reasonably safe, even with steady growth of RCN crop. This is the number in US. US has always led in export market. India is domestic consumption market, and whatever was outside India, US was the number one for so many years, consuming close to 10,000 to 12,000 containers every year. But US market also took a significant hit in last 2 years, mainly because of our nice famous guy Trump, who brought those tariffs into place. And with that tariff coming in, cost of cashews really increased dramatically. That was one part. Second part, tariffs are not only on cashews. Tariffs on all the products which are coming, from electronic appliance to a toilet paper to a TV, everything. So when everything goes up by 10 to 20% in the economy, the salaries are not going by the same measure. So inflation is also taking a significant impact on how the consumer is thinking in terms of prioritizing their expenses. So that is driving demand for cashews, and not only cashews, all the nuts in US on a downward trend. That's first. Even though the tariffs has been moved out this year and we are seeing a lot of raw kernels are going to US, it is not going to drive the demand significantly up. So you're not going to see a thick, large green band going upside for US in next 2 years, because inflation continues to hamper the focus on growth of nuts. And even if the prices of cashews go down lower, there's a 6 to 9 months lag from what the price changed to how it changes on shelf, and then consumer decides to put priority on buying cashews. US, I think, is going to be flat for last year or maybe slightly upward next year. But I don't see a significant swing happening as the volume of 23 or 24 which was in US. These are the numbers for Europe, and it's an interesting zone which is in Europe. We see from last 23 to 2025 and now in 26, there is a clear growth which is 8 to 10% which is happening. I believe the growth will continue to happen next year also, mainly because Europe has changed the way cashews are consumed. A large amount of promotion is happening in Europe and continuously driven in terms of pricing. So whenever the pricing volatility happens, the retailers are not changing the price. They're keeping the price stable. If they're able to source cheaper, they go for promotions and drive consumption. If they're able to get a bit expensive, they continue to maintain that because of the profits they have made earlier. They will keep it stable. So direct translation of higher prices are not going in the market, which is driving the consumption. That's first. The second part which is happening is adjustment in quality. So quality is playing a dramatic role in Europe for driving consumption, because the 320 which is in India market is not a 320 in European market. Both are very different. The 320 has any other grade which is looking like a whole blended and roasted, or seasoned, coated, etc., with chocolate, with chili, with salt and pepper, etc. So all of this is driving pricing stability. At the same time, it is also driving innovation, and same it is driving consumption for Europe. So it is going to be, I am bullish on Europe as I am bullish on China, that the consumption growth will continue to be there. So out of this, I am most bullish on India. Indian consumption has dramatically taken over as compared to any other country in last 7 years. And this I feel is also because of large part of innovation. But COVID, which has given a significant impact to economy in 2020 and 2022, has given a positive boom for nuts consumption in India. And I can see clearly a large amount of awareness which is coming in India for eating nuts as not only something which goes into festivities and gifting, but also in terms of regular consumption for health and vitality. So this is just a shelf price flow chart which shows that how the prices have been moving on snack nut for US and Europe. Just a point to clarify here, the green line, which is the mixed nut line, also includes peanuts. So mixed nuts not only is a mix of these three, but peanuts, which is why it is the cheapest one. Depending on how do we want to price that product into shelf, the percentage of peanut will be mixed. And about pistachios, almonds, not the main discussion, but if we see that cashew line, which is in Europe part, it was at a reasonable high price in 2020, 2018 and 2019. But post that, as it dropped in 21, it has remained very, very stable, which is what we were discussing in the last 2 or 3 slides back. US, significant volatility, again, seasonal buying, depending on how the crop prices, it directly translates on shelf, which is why there is a volatility in terms of consumption of the product also on shelf in US. So coming to consumer trends, which I was discussing about India, who is the largest consumer of cashews, a lot of this consumption is driven through what are the trends in the industry, and how the awareness because of e-commerce, how the awareness because of social media is driving this growth. So the first slide is on food and beverages trends. This is not cashew trends or cashew or ingredient trends. This is about the entire food segment and also on the beverages segment, how consumer is behaving now and what are the preferences where all the companies in this segment are putting their money behind, putting the innovation behind that. So couple of them I will clearly highlight. One is how you are seeing a relaxed social environment and that basically adds up to your food and beverages consumption. Second would be the focus on vitality, health and longevity. So social media definitely influences the way we eat our food nowadays. A fact which I would like to share is on supplements. So India is a market in terms of pharmaceutical industry, is a market of eating medicines over the counter. You can go and buy any amount of antibiotics. But last 3 years or 4 years, Ayurveda has really moved up. People understand and people see Instagram reels and say, okay, now this leaf or the extract of these leaves, if I take it for 2 years, it might actually cure cancer. Or let's say if I take all of this kind of supplements on a daily basis, vitamin D3 is very essential for me to have a development of my brain in a better way. So all of this is coming through Instagram, through TikTok and through Facebook. And this also is driving that vitality focus. Now good part is, in all of this, the influencers also promote lot of consumption of protein, and protein source which is good for health is nuts, and that is how we are getting a benefit in nuts. Not only in cashews, but almonds and pistachios, walnuts also, etc. Now coming specific to the trends which is related to nut ingredients and focusing on India, one clear part, as we are moving more and more toward health, vitality and longevity, the gifts which were going as chocolates before. First of all, it was going as mithai. So from mithai, we started moving to chocolates. And then chocolates, it came as cocoa, that let's eat dark chocolate because that's better for your health, for losing of weight. Second came as, okay, let me also balance it with the protein. So chocolate with nuts, that became the next part, which is now getting promoted. The third, which is coming now, is a snacking part, that you have to continue to do more snacking of nuts instead of those biscuits or cookies, brownies which we are eating. That is getting replaced. So that is clearly driving a significant demand now. The second part I would like to focus would be on protein and immunity, which is part of the same nuts basket. It improves your immunity, and this immunity focus, which was there predominantly 20 years back, was mainly through how do you eat healthy, how you consume your dairy on a regular basis, how do you ensure that you are not drinking yogurt after in the evening. All of that natural remedies, which were household remedies, were the part which was happening. Now it has changed to how do you develop your immunity by taking the right intake of supplements. And what are the natural supplements? Nuts are the natural supplements. A bigger part which is now driving this understanding of immunity and also growing that immunity is coming through social media. And social media connected to quick commerce definitely is the bigger tool for all of us as processors of nuts. That consumption is going to be much more stronger. Now India is a bit behind than China. China has gone to the state of quick commerce and delivery and e-commerce understanding to the next decade, where India is not there. So if you go in China and the way they consume and they buy the things, it is completely driven through how the social media interaction happens. People are always on phone. People read, search, understand. Any doubts are through AI. That is coming into India, and we believe this quick commerce connected with social media is going to be the biggest platform for us going forward in terms of consumption for nuts and mainly cashews. See, global continues to be focused, which is US and Europe mainly, focus on sustainability and traceability. I don't think that's the part which in Indian market or China market or Asia market, that's a big selling point. Price should be right and the product should be right. That two things, if you add, consumption should be clear up. So these are the growth opportunities I wanted to share. And this is specific one which I would like to, first one I would like to talk about India market. This is for global, but I would like to talk about India market. There is a clear headspace which I see in India where people have more or bigger disposable income today, and inflation is reasonably controlled. Though we see a lot of inflation happening and currency depreciation happening, but at the same time the disposable income also has increased dramatically in last 7 years. So premiumization and premium product awareness, interest to buy and interest to consume is definitely higher now. Also the mindset in terms of money spending also has changed dramatically in last 4 to 5 years in India. So marketing products which is only 320s in India, which will continue, but there has to be a different segment which we should introduce, which is 180s, I would say. India doesn't buy a lot of 180s. There is a country adjacent to us which is buying, let's say, 3,000 containers of 180 every year, China. Economies are very similar. Yes, I think they are growing in technology at a faster rate than us, but that country is able to buy 3,000 containers, and now I think this year would be 5,000. Gradually, they will continue to move completely on 180s because they see that economics. So 180 pricing today in China when they're consuming is cheaper than 320 price in India. So you are getting a bigger nut, maybe more nutrition, and getting at a cheaper price than what Indian consumer is paying today. And the logic is very simple. So how they crack this, and it is not because maybe someone in China had thought that, okay, I'm going to crack this and make that model. It just happened. So in cashew processing, what is the largest cost? The maximum cost you are going to spend is on peeling, manual peeling of the material, and second on grading of the material, because we make 30 to 35 grades in India. So when you spend that much cost, you spend time, energy, and people cost on that, and then you charge to the consumer also. And consumer sees that product, that's why he's buying. Now in China, they solved that complexity. They said, we don't want you to process or grade it. Just take that Burma cashews, do it roasting and salting, and give it to us. There's 1.5 billion people who will peel with their own hands and eat the cashew. So when you have reduced 50% of your cost and passed back to the consumer, and they are peeling and eating it, the consumption has gone up by 140% in last 3 years in China. And it is going at a dramatic rate. I had a question when I was an early entrant in cashew business, maybe 12 years back. And that time, my boss that time in Olam, he is now the INC chair, Ashok. So I used to ask him that, Ashok, you're a very senior guy in industry. Why don't you remove these testa issues from industry? Because every time I used to send a container to Europe, the European buyer will send a complaint that your testa is not 1.5%, it is 2.5%. And I used to ask that no one is going to die eating testa. So why are you making so much of fuss for 1%? Today China has done the same thing. They said we don't make a fuss. They are eating 10,000 containers a year without making a fuss on testa. So that's where I would say India should look into, or global market should look into, reduce cost, give it to everyone, then there will be not enough cashews in the world for people to eat. The next part I would talk about is e-commerce and direct to consumer. It's a clear growth story. I spoke in the last slide also. I think all our processors, from large and medium processors, we should clearly focus on putting our products directly on e-commerce and drive to that channels, because a part of that cost for your marketing a product is taken by the e-commerce industry. So we should jump on that bandwagon and ensure that we drive consumption through e-commerce and also through D2C channels. Last slide for me, which is the outlook from my side and also what I see as risk. Clear risk is there this year is El Nino. It's a very strong El Nino. I have read some reports. I have also had some interactions. I'm pretty sure this is going to be having a strong impact on various nuts globally. On cashew, definitely it will have an impact because of, it is going to impact rainfall. So we should be cautious. I feel there is going to be an impact on the overall crop next year. It's too early to say. I think November would be the right month to decide how much impact it will have on a crop for Tanzania or next season. Tanzania, I'm not very sure. Tanzania, I feel the rain has already happened and the flowering has already been there. It's not going to make a bigger delta change. But next year, West Africa crop definitely will have an impact because of this. Second, which is very relevant to India in terms of INR. INR currency has been depreciating, and if our local prices doesn't change in the same tune, it is going to drive impact on the parity for all our processors. So if currency appreciates for us, definitely it helps because the local price will not adjust dramatically. You have 800 rupees per kilo you're selling, it is not going to change to 760 immediately. But if we get a better price, we are able to buy a better RCN and then we can also drive consumption. So that's a risk on us. I believe government should be doing enough in that matter to protect us on currency volatility. But rest will be mostly 26 crop season and the geopolitical uncertainty, which political uncertainty is not in our hand. We have to just navigate through that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patil.